my name is Mary Grace Lovelace. I'm the Executive Director at the Palmetto Foundation, and today we have Jesse Miller with us. Jesse, thanks so much for being here and telling your story. Where do you want to start?
My name is Jesse Miller. I'm from Chapin, South Carolina. I'm 29 years old. I come from a big family, born and raised here. I am number 7, and I have dealt with addiction for, I'm 29. I started using drugs when I was around 13 or 14. The hard drugs came, I would say, around 17, 18. But it began fairly young. When I was younger, my family dealt with a lot of trauma from the loss of my brother. His name was Scotty. He passed away in a motorcycle accident, and my brothers and sisters, we kind of had our own way of coping with it, and mine was anger, and I started acting out at a very young age. I believe the first time that I was in the back of a cop car, I was 7 years old, and it just behaviors that weren't acceptable, kicking doors, breaking out windows, getting in fights with my other family members, just being so violent, and it all just stemmed from that anger from, the loss of my brother. That eventually led to the state taking custody of me and sending me to a wilderness camp when I was 13, where it was very hard. There was a lot of things that went on there that it will stay with me for the rest of my life. And when I got out of that wilderness camp, I was at that age where, kids are starting to experiment with drugs like marijuana and stuff like that. So I just remember I was gone for about a year, and I came back, I believe it was the 8th grade, and the friends that I had before, they weren't, drinking or smoking or anything, and then I come back and everybody's drinking alcohol or smoking cigarettes, and when I got back, I was kind of shell-shocked from the traumatic stuff that happened there, and
at the camp.
Yeah, at the wilderness camp. And so when I'm with these people and they offer me things like marijuana and alcohol, that first time the first time I smoked marijuana, it actually was laced with something, and it wasn't. I actually had a very bad experience. But the alcohol, and then eventually trying the marijuana again, it filled something, or I wouldn't say it filled, it just put that Band-Aid on top of it, and it got me through, and from that point on, drugs became everything to me. It was what I needed to function. I'd say about 14 or 15, I was addicted to, that's when I got addicted to painkillers, hydrocodone, Percocets, Lord, any kind of pill I could get my hand on, and then eventually it's Xanax. It just progressed from 13. It just kept progressing. And then around the age of, I would say, 17, 18. At this point, I'd already been to DJJ. I had been to several psych wards from overdoses, suicide attempts. There was a time where I was on house arrest for a crime that I committed, where I was on house arrest for 6 months, and that was one of the times that I attempted suicide. And I went to a place called William S. Hall. It was on Bull Street. Bull Street's tore down now, but I was there for 10 days. And then I've literally been on papers with probation and parole since I was 15 years old. I mean, there was probably a couple times where I had a year or two where I didn't have to report or I wasn't on probation, but since that age of 14 or 15, I have been on probation or parole. So that's another reason why I started going for other harder drugs than marijuana, because marijuana stays in your system for 30 days. And when you have a probation and parole officer, they're going to drug test you all the time. And other drugs like, painkillers and whatnot, and even heroin, cocaine, they don't stay in your system for 30 days.
Okay.
So then I'm thinking in my head, it's like, I'll just take this. I'm still getting high. That's what I want. I just want to get high. So, and then that's when I learned about things like withdrawals. Like I didn't know at that age of anything of withdrawals. You know what I'm saying? There was a couple times, like I remember one time I was taking about close to 10, 7.5, 500 hydrocodone a day at like 14 or 15, and there was this one day where I didn't have them. And like my body had just like, and I was so agitated and angry, and like I was just like, what is wrong with me? And then I just remember somebody saying something about withdrawal, and I looked it up, and I'm like, wow, I'm going through withdrawals right now.
Yeah.
So then it became like, oh, well, we can't have that, so I just need to make sure that I'm getting high every day. And so
just adding on to that.
Yeah, just adding on to it. And then
did you ever talk to anybody about it at that time, or you just closed off and secretive?
I didn't need to talk to anybody. My parents and family knew. I mean, it was clear as day the way I acted. I mean, you could tell I was an addict, and there was nothing my family could do because it was my choice. Like I was going to do it. I loved my family, but ultimately, like something had its hooks in me. Like there was no saying no to it. It just, that's what I wanted. And ultimately, like, I put my family through hell. I didn't have anywhere to go, so I'd pull my car into the driveway and just park it and fall asleep. And I would wake up to my dad knocking on the window, like, and he wasn't coming out there to bother me. He was honestly coming out there to make sure I was alive. Because at that time, 2-3 years ago, I was using an amount of drugs that would kill your average person. But my tolerance was so high that it just didn't affect me like that. Like it's just literally, it was the gasoline that fueled me. Like it is what got me through the day. Like I had to have it. And ultimately what stopped me was prison. Prison was the best thing that ever happened to me. And it was the tough love. It was my lawyer saying like, yo, I really don't, like, the best thing for you is for you to be in here. I remember the first time my lawyer came and saw me in jail, this last time that I was in jail waiting to go to court. I had about 30-something charges. And he came in. He had to come in because I had got jumped. I had my left eye was swollen shut. I ran into some people that I knew from the streets, and they beat the crap out of me.
In prison?
Yeah, they're gang members. I've never done the gang thing, but I was alone in there, and yeah, they got me. They got me pretty good, and that's what it took for my lawyer to come see me, because I was calling him every day. I was like, I had the money and everything for him to get me out, but he didn't want to hear it. He knew what mindset I was in. Like, I'm very thankful for him being aware of that I was addicted and I was an addict, and he knew what I needed. So like him not picking up the phone was like perfect. But then when my family members contacted him and said, hey, like, he got jumped last night, that's when he finally came to see me. And he told me right then and there, he was like, listen, like, if I get you out, like, you're gonna die. And I can't. I think you need to just get this out of your system.
How bad were the withdrawals while you were in prison?
So I'll go over what ultimately got me locked up and the withdrawals and everything. So at this time, it was October 31st, 2022, and I was a drug dealer. I didn't have a job at the time, but all of 2022, I did have a job. I was working. When I wasn't working, I was selling drugs, and then when I wasn't selling drugs at night, I was literally committing felonies every night. Nothing violent, but petty crimes that could get me money to where I could feed my addiction, because like I said earlier, like my addiction, like it was insane. The amount of money that I was spending just to maintain not being sick, I guarantee you I cleared $100,000 in 2022, and I have nothing to show for it. It all went in my veins, all of it. It went through my heart and got me high, all of it. And so, but October 31st, I had just got out. I had tried to go to detox the week before. I couldn't do it. They tried to do microdosing. What microdosing is it's Suboxone. They slowly give you little bits at a time, because if you take too much Suboxone, it rips the opiates off your receptors in your brain, and it sends you into full precipitated withdrawal. So they try to ease it in there, and I couldn't do it. There was a guy that was my roommate. He was trying to detox, and I remember laying in the bed. I was shaking. I was sweating. I felt terrible. And he's like, I can't do this. I'm leaving. And I'm in Greenville. I'm not even from Greenville. And I was like, yo, like, let me catch a ride with you. I'm leaving with you. And he was like, all right, come on. And so I left with him, and I told him my connections and everything. I was like, if you can just get me back to Columbia, like, I will get us right. So he drove me back down here, and then I had pending charges, and I actually didn't know until after I got locked up, but I had active warrants for my arrest. And so it was a few days after that I literally just hit like a place where I don't want anybody to ever be. I was in my bathroom upstairs, and I remember just looking myself in the mirror and just being like, dude, we've tried this. Like, there's just, what is there to do? You've tried, like, because there was a time where I had like a year sober, and which, by the way, I have 26 months now. This is
Congratulations.
the first time since I was a teenager that I've been able to not,
Awesome.
I'm very proud of it.
Absolutely.
And I plan on keeping that going. But so I just was so hopeless. I just felt so terrible, like just so wore out and just tired. And
tired of fighting.
It was like, dude, it's literally, that addiction was like having a major job. Like, I've done so much different kinds of work. I've done tree work, concrete, framing, roofing. There is no job like having to feed an addiction, to stay away from withdrawals. You have to commit felonies. You have to do things you never thought you would do. You have to hang around the most evil people, and then also too, people that are just like you. And so I just said, screw it. I done it before, failed attempts before. I hung myself from my dad's deer stand. My dad found me there. I've tried, and so this time I was like, I got $300 worth of fentanyl right here. I'm sure this will do it. And I messaged a friend, I consider him a younger brother. His name's Cruz. And I've always appreciated him. I've known his family my whole life pretty much, and even though we don't hang out, we have always had that bond, like check on each other and stuff. He was one of the people I just wanted to say, like goodbye to, but I didn't say goodbye. I just simply said, hey man, I just want you to know that I love you, and take care. Is pretty much what I said. And he knows me from the past. He knows that like I don't play around, I guess. So he messaged his sister, and while this going on, I'm loading up a syringe with $300 worth of fentanyl, and I left all my drugs right there on the counter, and started going towards the back of my property. And at this time, he's messaging his sister, who lives right up the street from me. He's like, I don't care what you're doing right now. Go get in your car and go to Jesse's house. Something is wrong. And so she's doing that, and I get to the back of my property, and right at the line, there's like posts that separates my property from the neighborhood behind me. And I just sat up against the post. I would say it's about like, the sun's down, but it's not complete dark yet. And I remember I was bawling my eyes out. I was crying because I didn't want to do it, but I didn't know what else to do.
You wanted out.
I just wanted out.
Wanted it to end.
Yeah, like I just wanted it to end. And I literally just remember looking down and just and then just that was that black. And next thing you know, I remember I woke up for a split second, and it was in the back of the car. My brother's girlfriend is driving the car. My little brother is in the back seat with me. Apparently, I was wrestling with him. And for some reason, I remember being over top of him and saying, like, let me go. Apparently, I was trying to get out of the car. But all I remember telling my little brother was, like, if you don't let me go, I'm going to bite you. And his neck was, like, right there. And I also remember people around the car, like, freaking out because they were trying to get me to the ambulance. And then it went black again. And then next thing you know, I'm in the hospital. And I got, everything all over me. And then it was go time from there. Like, I need to get out of here. I don't want to be here. Let me go. And I knew that I was going to have withdrawals soon, like, because they give me Narcan. And Narcan, what it does is it rips the opiates from your receptors. So, like, I was not feeling good at all.
Okay.
And I was literally, I felt terrible. I mean, everything you can think of going wrong, like the runny nose, the body aches, the shaking, the anxiety, the restless legs, just whatever you could think of to not be comfortable in your own body, that was happening.
Like a flu times 20.
Yeah, like a flu times 20. And so I remember I got out of, like, I started taking all the stuff out of my arms and got out of the bed and was like, I want to leave. And they were like, well, you're about to leave, your ride's on the way. And I was like, I didn't call no ride. And then I started feeling like something was wrong. And so I started getting my stuff together. And I was literally about to leave, just say screw them and leave. And here comes Lexington County right around the corner. And it was the same officer who, like 2 months before, I got arrested for public disorderly conduct. It was a crazy night. Some girl had robbed me, and I chased her down in a truck trying to get all my stuff back. She literally robbed my house for everything. And I called the cops while I'm chasing her down, like, hey, like, this girl took everything from me, and we're going to get her. But when they got there, they arrested me because I was acting crazy.
Was she also somebody?
Yeah, she was somebody that was selling drugs with me.
Okay.
Dude, we were hauling butt. I was chasing this girl down through Harbison, and they caught up to us on Piney Grove, and they were looking through her truck, and they didn't find nothing, and they arrested me, and I flipped out, and so that officer that I had headbutted him in resisting arrest in the jail when they were booking me. So he comes around the corner, and he's like, Jesse, are we gonna have any problems with you this time? And I'm just like, why do you have warrants for me? I'm out on bond. Like, what? And he was like, I think it was for trespassing, because they had picked me up from my parents that night, and I was on a trespass notice. So that was, So I go, they take me to jail, and I was going to be calm this time. I didn't want to rack up any more charges. And they told me to go in the suicide cell. And like, I started freaking out because it's literally just a concrete cell with a toilet. There's no bed, there's no nothing, and you just have this cloth over you and you're naked. And so, like, you're going through withdrawals, and now you have no clothes, you're cold, and you're on concrete. So I'm literally begging them. I remember I was actually on the phone with my brother. I was pleading with him, my older brother. And I was like, please, he wouldn't give my mom the phone. He was like, I'm sorry, Jesse, I just can't. I'm just not doing it. And I don't hold no resentment. He did what he believed was right, and it was. I mean, I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for them doing what they did. But I got put in that cell, and for 3 days, they wouldn't let me use the phone. They wouldn't let me do anything. And so...
That seems very cool.
Yeah, no, it was. And it was the third day where I had a lawyer, and they refused to let me use the phone. So I just snapped. I snapped, and I started kicking that cell, and I apparently kicked it so hard that the plastic, it's a big metal door, but there's a slit of plastic going up the door where you can, see out, and it started busting out. I was kicking it so hard, it started coming out. And next thing you know, I remember looking out and they're all putting on riot gear. I mean, helmets, armor, shields.
But you in that moment, it wasn't really you acting out like that.
It was just what I was, the mental state of what I was getting. All I wanted was a phone call. That's all I wanted. And they're armoring up like I'm some, killer or something, you know what I'm saying? And so this is what I did. I don't know why I was just thinking about what could I do to get them to just talk to me. And so the cups that they give us for our lunch and everything, I took 2 cups and I scooped them out of the toilet. And I literally sat in the corner and I'm like, maybe they'll stop at the door and be like, don't throw that on us. That is not what happened. That door popped and they came in a single file line behind that shield and they knocked me out. I mean, knocked my head into the wall. I had a cut over my head. I had a bruise on my cheek. They literally drug me out by my legs, pulled out this metal chair that had wheels on it, put me in it, and they strapped me here, and they strapped me here, and they strapped me here, and literally threw me back in the cell. So now I'm going through withdrawals, and I'm in restraints, and just literally the most uncomfortable you could possibly be.
Right.
I was crying. I lost my voice for a week. And all I was screaming was, I just want my phone call. I just want my phone call. And LT, I can't remember his name, but he was the one who came down there and was like, yo, why are you freaking out? And I'm like, dude, because I've been in this cell for 3 days. I feel terrible. Like, I'm coming off of $1,000 a week drug habit. And all I want is a 5-minute phone call, and y'all won't give it to me. He's like, really? He's like, give me 15 minutes. I'll bring you the phone. They rolled a phone into the cell like it was nothing. Like they could have done that the whole time. The next morning, they charged me with throwing the bodily fluids on a correctional officer. For throwing that water because it got on them and because it came out of the toilet, it was throwing of bodily fluids. At the beginning, I thought that, that's just a 30-day charge. No, that is a Class C or a Class B felony, which is punishable up to 15 years. And ultimately, when I went to court, they dropped all my other charges and they hit me with that one. And they convicted me of it. They gave me 10 years, suspended to 2 with 3 years probation. But back to the withdrawal question, I withdrew for 25 days. I didn't sleep for somewhere between 10 to 14 days. At the end of it, it was just flashes of chills and a little bit of sweats. But the worst part of it was, I would say, somewhere between 14 to 18 days. And there was nothing I could do. I mean, it was terrible. I was selling some of my food for Remeron. You know what Remeron is? It's an antidepressant, but you can use it for sleep. I used to be prescribed to it, and it'll knock you out. And I was actually taking those, and it wouldn't work. I mean, they wouldn't put me to sleep. I was just my body was going through so much that even 60 milligrams of Remeron wouldn't put me to sleep or ease anything. So it was terrible. But that's what it took. I mean, I will never forget that.
So you think it started out with weed, then moved to painkillers, and then kind of added on from there.
Most definitely.
And it would just, you were looking for anything to stop the pain and to fill whatever void that you were feeling. And then it got to the point where your body was so heavily addicted to you had no other choice but
I was no longer, that ruled my life.
Yeah.
Literally ruled it. And I'm doing this right now because I told myself, because ultimately when I got to prison, I had a lot to think about. I had a lot of time to think. And I did a lot of reading and stuff. And like Kirkland, when I was in Kirkland, I was locked in a cell for 97 days because they're short on staff and because it's just been messed up since the coronavirus. But the only times we came out was Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for a 10-minute shower. Any other time, I'm literally in a cell with 2 other grown men, half the size of this room right here, like literally, and it's just 3 bunks with a toilet. So I mean, and we did what we had to do to make the time go by. I took a marker and drew a chessboard on the floor and made pieces out of toilet paper and toothpaste, and I had a guy write down a few cells over, and we would play chess almost all day, just calling out the numbers, like, pawn from B1 or something to C3, you know what I'm saying? And that's how we made the time go by.
Do you think if they would have had any sort of counseling or any sort of peer support recovery available in prison, do you think that would have benefited you in any way? Or do you think it was something that you had to do?
I'm gonna be honest with you, that's a hard question, because ultimately you can give somebody all the help they need, but it's ultimately them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like I said earlier, I've been to psych wards, I've been to rehabs,
mm-hmm.
I've been to jail. I mean, I've gone to places and completely tried to start over, and it just like I said, I've tried everything.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I believe it just comes down to you. Like, you have to hit some place where it's just do or die.
Hands up, I can't do it anymore.
But I do believe, like, if there's anybody out there that has like a family member or a friend that is struggling with addiction, if they ever call you and they say, hey, I'm in jail, can you get me out? Don't get them out. Just don't do it.
Do you think them being
prison was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
It woke me up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was, SCDC is the most corrupt system in South Carolina. I believe that. The things that I saw in there, I mean, I saw a dude get shanked with a knife on his temple
mm-hmm.
over $5, and then the COs like turning their heads and like, there's drugs in there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
I've heard stories of
yeah, like, it's not like a cup of tobacco is
mm-hmm.
$50. A little medicine cup
mm-hmm.
is $50. But they will.
Somehow they're getting hardcore drugs.
Oh yeah, most definitely. There was guys in there addicted to heroin and meth, and me, I had been clean so long. At that point, when I got to prison, I was about. Let's see. When I hit the yard, not Kirkland. Kirkland's prison, but you're locked in that. You haven't hit your yard yet, where you can get a job and move around.
Okay.
And, you know what I'm saying? Like, get let out of your cell and interact with other people.
Okay.
I went to Kershaw was where I went, and it was in, let's say, like June or July. And I got to Kirkland. I got locked up in October of 2022, and I got to Kershaw in June or July. That's how much clean time I had. And what I had seen at that point is like, I'd watched people that were addicted in prison,
mm-hmm.
and they were always the ones getting something happening to them because they owe somebody something, or they're getting run around, having to do favors because they owe people money,
mm-hmm.
and they were just as strung out in there as they were on the streets.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, and I'm not a gang member,
mm-hmm.
so some of them have people that'll back them up. I had nobody.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I'd already got jumped in jail by 2 people. And I just, at that point, I guess I was so scared. I was like, I'm just not doing it. I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
And it was not fun, but that's what it took.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just told myself when I got out of prison that, like, I'm going to use this to help others. I don't want to meet my maker and him ask me, I gave you a second chance. What did you do with it?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I'm doing what I can, right now. I don't have a license. I'm self-employed, but I'm managing to get by. And I have the most money saved right now that I've ever had legally. I've had money before, but it was never honest.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? It was never, it was always crooked or wicked or something evil behind it. This time, it was my blood, sweat, and tears that got me that money. And I have enough money right now. I could not have a job for a month or two and I'll be fine. You know, especially, and then with my family supporting me, you know, I live with my parents right now. It is what it is. I'm not always going to be in this position, but I'm just taking this. It's just a step. You know, I didn't come right back to my parents. I actually was like, I'm going to go to rehab when I get out. Like, I don't think I'm ready, so I went straight to Faith Home in Greenwood. It's a great facility. I love it. I have nothing but good things to say about Faith Home. It's free. If there's anybody out there that wants to go there, it's in Greenwood, South Carolina. It's called Faith Home. It's literally one of the best places that I've ever been, and they will. How
courageous of you, though, leaving and saying, I'm not ready to be outside.
So and then even when I graduated there, I wasn't ready. I went to a halfway house called Cross Anchor, and I stayed there for, I think, from January all the way until June or July. And that's when I was like, okay, I'm gonna give it a shot. And now here we are. This is the longest time that I've been. Every other time that I've come home, a couple days. Literally a couple days.
But this time's different.
Like, I'd gone to Faith Home one other time, and I got kicked out, wasn't doing what I was supposed to do, and that night I overdosed. That night, that was another crazy night. I was literally at a gas station right by the dam. It was at 11 o'clock at night. I was supposed to meet my little brother, his girlfriend, and my niece. And nobody was in the parking lot. I just put gas in my truck, and as I'm driving, I'm hitting myself, and next thing you know, it's just black. So when that happened, I had rolled out into the highway and stopped. So that's how people knew that I overdosed. If I wouldn't have stopped, if I wouldn't have rolled out into the highway, I probably wouldn't be here right now. I would just look like a car sitting in the gas station parking lot. Nobody would have stopped. But because I rolled out and blocked everybody, they got out and called 911. So like I've had I've had so many close calls, and even then, like, that's how powerful the stuff is too. Like, a lot of people, I have several old friends that aren't here anymore because it's very dangerous when you get sober and then you come back and you try to use again, because when you were using, you had an idea of how much you could take and how much you could do. This time you don't, because your tolerance is gone. So like, I'm trying to sit there and like taste it and look at it and trying to decide like, how strong is this stuff? And you're taking you're gambling basically, like, is this gonna kill me? And I did the smallest amount, and it did it. Yeah, I woke up in an ambulance. It's just it's terrible, the whole thing, and I wish that there was more. I actually do see people becoming more aware about it. Yeah. And it's because of so many people dying. And it's sad that it's taking that people are starting to wake up because so many people are dying. So I want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of the solution. And it's so strong of you to sit here and share all of that. I appreciate that. So what advice do you have for others that are currently struggling with substance use disorder? Utilize the people around you. Family. There are people around you that love you and care about you. And if you want it bad enough, you'll do it. I mean, nobody's holding my hand right now doing this. I want it. I struggle with depression almost every morning right now. It's a motivational speech in my head to get up. I'm not sitting here and saying that it's a cakewalk, that like it's awesome. Life is hard, but everybody's going through life. That's something you can't get stuck in this victim mentality where the world owes you. That was one of my biggest problems. Was I walked around and felt like the world owed me. That I was a victim. I had been done wrong, and I deserved to have whatever I wanted, and I wanted to get high, so I'm going to get high because I'm dealing with this pain and y'all don't understand. And so, like, get out of that mindset. Like, if you want something, go work for it. Don't, like, there's so many benefits from not having a victim mentality. Like nobody wants to be around anyone that just whines about everything and expects the world to give them when they're not giving anything.
So compared to life during your use versus post during your recovery journey, how would you compare it?
I was a completely different person.
Yeah.
Completely different.
So your life after and during this recovery is just...
Well, yeah, that's all. I had to change, completely. Like, I was the problem. Who I was then was the problem. Nobody else was the problem. It was me. So I had to completely change.
Yeah.
Everything. I mean, down to the music I listen to. Right now, I think one of the areas that I'm struggling with right now is self-talk. I still have some self-talk problems. People don't know that because I don't tell you what's on my mind. I don't tell everybody what's on my mind. But that's probably one of the number one things I struggle with right now is self-talk. Negative. Like, that's why I have some people where I actually kind of got in a little argument with somebody the other day. I just thought, dude, I deal with my own negative stuff right now. I don't want to hear it. I have so much negative stuff right now, but you don't hear me, that's not stopping me. I'm doing it, okay? And so that's one of the things I'm working on right now is self-talk.
Yeah.
But another thing, depression is real. I think as you get older, it gets worse. But I do have, the whole fitness, I believe in fitness, big time.
Yeah.
Before I got locked up, right when I got locked up, in jail withdrawing, I was 129 pounds and I could not do one push-up. Now I'm about 180 pounds and I can bench press 315 pounds.
Wow.
So yeah, it's one of my hobbies. It's cheap, and it's something I can do every day and enjoy it. And there are scientific experiments done that have proven that fitness and exercise releases the same endorphins and dopamines as drugs. It releases those natural chemicals to make you naturally feel good. So when I don't go, I can tell. It's almost like it's an addiction in itself, and it can be bad too. There's a lot of body dysmorphia and stuff in the fitness side of things where people struggle with that and struggle with eating, but it's all up here. That's the other thing about fitness is you can look in that mirror and you can get all these results and you'll still never be good enough.
Yeah. So
you're chasing something. It's the same thing with drugs. You're chasing it, but it's a healthy habit.
Right.
I encourage anybody, if you get sober, if there's anybody out there that gets sober, I strongly advise some type of exercise. And I've been doing jiu-jitsu for 6 months, every Friday.
Awesome.
I've been paying the $30 every Friday. But just 2 weeks ago, I actually joined now, so I can go whenever I want. And I'm going to start training. I want to do a tournament in about 4 months. But that's another exercise, but it's not lifting weights because I've been lifting weights for about every time I've been sober for 12 years. So it's been
a healthy habit.
Yeah, that's one of the things that my family, that's how they know if I'm getting high or not. They know if I'm using it or not, is if I'm not exercising. My weight drops. I'm not going to the gym. I'm not eating right. That's one of the big signs where they can tell, he's using drugs again. So, and it holds you accountable too. And it's like I said, it's something cheap where you can also make goals and
meet good members and gyms.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've met so many awesome people at gyms, and even work buddies, or I've gotten jobs that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I strongly advise that, or find some hobby, something.
Good lifestyle changes.
Because when you're living that life, the life when I was using and selling drugs, it was fast. I mean, I was always doing something. I was probably committing a felony every day. And then you get sober and it slows down. You know what I'm saying?
Enjoy it
And you get, well, yeah, that too. But when you get used to that adrenaline, that feeling you get from, I guess, that side of life, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes you get bored. You don't like sitting in your room doing nothing. So because that's a trigger too, boredom, big trigger. Not for me, but just in recovery in general, you see a lot of people openly say, I was bored.
Yeah.
Like I needed an excitement or something. So go out and find a hobby. You know what I'm saying?
Hiking.
Yeah. So that's what I was saying. I was doing the jujitsu. So if I had the money, though, I'd do motocross dirt bikes.
Yeah.
So
back from when you were
back when I was younger, riding and doing, because that's how my brother passed away. And that was my first memories, was riding a dirt bike. Best feeling in the world. There's no great, like just good, like positive feeling than jumping a dirt bike 100 feet and landing it. And it's that good chemical rush, the natural that your body produces on its own. You get that from riding dirt bikes.
Horseback riding too. I've heard that's very therapeutic.
Yeah, but any new hobby to fill that time. Yeah. That's what I would encourage. Somebody who's new in recovery, find a good positive hobby and find people to do it with. You don't have to do it alone. Like, for example, the jiu-jitsu thing, I have a buddy that I go with.
Nice, yeah.
And now the gym's different. I like to be by myself when I'm lifting weights, because that's my therapeutic. That's my 1.5 hour out of the day that I can do for me. You know, like, because if I don't, I feel like a piece of crap.
One of my last questions is, how would you describe recovery in one word, if you could?
Work.
Okay.
It's work.
Yeah.
It's not easy. But I can honestly sit here and tell you 26 months later from the start that it's worth it. Yeah. It's worth it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And we're so proud of Jesse and so thankful that he's here with us today.
I appreciate it.
Is there anything else that you want to share?
No, I just appreciate you having me, and I'll just
do
anything I can to help those that are still sick and suffering.
Yeah, and if anybody out there, we can hook you up with his contact information, and I know that Jesse would love to speak with anybody that's struggling out there that needs some help. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.